Once upon a time, there was an innocent young woman who liked reading innocent young adult books and was in the middle of recovering from a bad adult romance reading experience. When one day the girl's boyfriend, who'd been trying to get her to expand her horizons, burst in and began reading dirty, dirty words from his favorite vampire romance series. Disgusting, the girl thought. But he continued, filling her ears with steamy, naughty content for 3 long minutes of torture. Disgusting, she thought again. Absolute torture. He said, "Did you like that?" No. Get that trash out of my face. And that was when everything changed. Hello everybody, my name is Courtney and welcome to my channel. Today I am going to be talking about the books that got me started in the romance genre. So first off, I wanted to give a little bit of background about how I actually started reading adult romance. I was very much into young adult. I didn't want to read, 18 and over kind of romance. I was very reluctant. But then one of my favorite authors, which was Anne Rice at the time, had written her first erotic adult romance, and I decided to pick it up because I loved Anne Rice. That is The Taming of Sleeping Beauty. I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. I thought it was not good. I had a hard time following the story, and honestly it was categorized as erotic romance, which a lot of times with erotic literature, it's not, the story is very secondary and it's more about the graphic sexual content. And I just didn't really care for it. I thought it was boring, I thought it was awkward, and so I decided never to delve into it ever again. And then I met my now fiance, and he, about a year into our relationship, actually it was probably after we moved in together, which is probably about a year into our relationship, but he told me about this vampire romance series and he said it was amazing. He read all the books and he was really in love with it. And me, having had not a good experience when it came to my first adult romance book, kept telling him, no, I don't read that. I don't like it. I read stories, story-driven things. That's what I want. I think it was about a year after he told me about the books that he just kind of barged in on me. I was working, I still work at home, and he just sat down in this chair with one of these books, and I'm about to tell you what books these are, but he sat down in a chair with one of these books and he started reading a dirty excerpt from it. And I remember looking at him like, what the fuck are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you here? And he just kept reading it. Bless his soul, he committed. And he read like an entire chapter to me. And after that, I was like, fine, I will read these books. Actually, I didn't even commit to reading them. I listened to the audiobooks, which are actually really good. If you ever, like I said, I'm about to tell you what books these are, but the audiobooks are actually really good. I got hooked. And I listened to all like 15 of the books in this series in like a week. And I remember I just got so addicted to them that I ended up, after like a week or two, I went back to him and I said, oh my God, have you read this book in the series? And he looked at me like, no, I haven't gotten that far, because apparently when he stopped reading, she had kept writing. This author had kept writing and he hadn't gotten past a certain point. And so I actually surpassed him and I got past that and I read like 6 books ahead of him. And I was like, why, how have I not read these before? I should have read these. I should have experienced this earlier, and now I'm starting so late. And so I read everything, everything. I got so into romance because I was like, oh my God, romance can have a story. It doesn't all have to be like raunchy sex, which is fine. If you like that, no judgment. But I was like, wow, like it can actually have a really good story and also have really sexy times. And I got really addicted to it, and I started looking for other series to fill that void when I finished the romance series that I'm talking about. My dog likes to burrow, and I piled all my blankets up so she's having she's getting really confused because she can't burrow. So I got really into the series, and I needed something to fill that void because I was so voracious that I was reading so many of these books. And I don't have my mic on, so you're gonna be able to hear my fiance actually riding up on his Harley because it's really loud. Maybe you can't hear it. Maybe my phone won't pick it up. But yes, this tattooed, bearded man who's riding a Harley right now, just driving up to the house, this is the man who got me into fantasy paranormal romance. This is the guy that made me into the woman I am today. So, getting into it, the series that I am talking about is the Midnight Breed series by Lara Adrian. And if you don't know what that is, if you don't know who that is, I suggest you go look her up right now. She wrote this series called The Midnight Breed, and it is about vampires. It is a vampire romance series. Each book can technically... Baby! Stop! Actually, when my fiance was describing this series to me, I thought it was the most ridiculous thing ever because these vampires are aliens. And so it's technically a sci-fi paranormal romance. These books can technically all be read as standalones, but there is a bigger underlying story that happens throughout the books that it would benefit you to read all of the books together. So these vampires, they're aliens. Actually, the vampires that we meet in the books are technically descendants of the aliens, but they're mixed with human blood. They have these markings, they look like tattoos all over their bodies. And they change colors, so kind of like mood rings. They change colors depending on like what they're feeling. What happens is the originals of these species, I don't remember what they're called actually, but they are called something if they're the originals. They're just basically these savage, blood-sucking demon creatures. But after they started mixing with humans, they started being more like civilized, being able to think, being able to control their bloodlust. And as the generations went on, the tattoos kind of like, you know, if you're closer to the original generation, you have more of these like body markings. And if you're farther, then you have less of them. So if you're more human, and like they call them, like in the books, they actually call them Generation 2, Generation 3, all of that. And you can kind of tell because of how many markings they have on their bodies. They actually have what are called breed mates in the books, which are these human women who are it's kind of a fated mate situation. Sort of. It's not really fated mate because from my understanding, they don't have to be with this one person, but there are certain women who can be with them, and they're called breed mates. And if these vampires find a breed mate, which is super, super rare, then they can actually bond with them, and then because they are bonded, those women can actually live as long as their vampire companion. There's way too much story to go through, and I'm not going to go through it, but the series is really good. I binged all of it in like a week or two, and I would highly recommend those books. The next author that I have on the list is the author that filled my Lara Adrian, the void that Lara Adrian's books left in my heart, and that is Felicity Heaton. And she wrote the Eternal Mates series. And this series is another series that can be, each book, it's a really, really long series. Each book can be read by itself. Obviously, reading all of them is beneficial because it builds a universe, but they don't actually have to be read together. Each book follows some supernatural creature. So I read these books a long, long time ago, but if I remember correctly, hell is this other dimension where elves, vampires, dragons, all of these creatures live. And this is actually a fated mates series where, I was about to hiccup, so that's why my voice got all weird for a second, but it's a fated mate series, that's why it's called Eternal Mates. So every book is about these characters finding their fated mate. And there are, like I said, there's dragon shifters, vampires, elves. I'm pretty sure vampires are elves because elves do suck blood like vampires, but I guess vampires are the ones that let that craving kind of overtake them. There's a lot of lore behind the series, and it's really interesting. And the series is really long. It has shifters, it has all kinds of things, and honestly, I feel like anybody could find a book in the series that really calls to them. And I will tell you which one called to me in later videos because there are a couple of them that appeal to me a lot more than the others. But I really liked this series, it was the perfect author to fill the Lara Adrian void, and I would absolutely recommend it. The next author on my list is Michelle M. Pello, and Michelle M. Pello was the one that I found when I was trying to fill my Dragon Shifter romance void. I mean, technically I didn't really have a void. I just really wanted to read Dragon Shifter romance. And I found her book by just basically typing in Dragon Shifter romance on Amazon. And she's another one that has a really long series and spin-off series that all take place in one universe. And they are alien romance, but the Dragon Lord series specifically is about these aliens that can shift into dragons. It is also a fated mate type of situation, and every book can be read as a standalone, but again, reading them together does like build a universe and get you closer to the lore of the series. And I really liked them. So basically, this is a universe where humans are voluntarily given over to these dragon lords on this planet. And the reason for that is because on this planet, the sun's radiation has prevented the females of this species to are really rare. And in exchange for being able to mine precious materials from this planet, humans are giving over willing females to marry these dragons so that they can reproduce. And each book is different. Each book centers around different characters, so it's really interesting. I obviously have favorites because there are characters that appeal to me more, but all in all, I love the universe, I love the characters, and again, I would highly recommend it. The last author that I have on this list, and I'm sure all of you have heard of her, is Ruby Dixon. Ruby Dixon took my weird, obscure alien romance virginity. And what I mean by that is I actually picked up her book, the first book in her Ice Planet Barbarians series. I read her book as a joke. I thought the cover was cheesy. I thought the name was cheesy. I honestly picked it up so that I could read it and tell all my friends how stupid it was, but then I got so addicted to it that I read like a million other books of hers. And she is actually the one that got me so addicted to alien romance that I just voraciously started reading alien romance from that point on. If you don't know who Ruby Dixon is, she basically writes these books about blue horned aliens on an ice planet. And she writes a lot more than that because she has so many books. She has the Ice Planet Barbarian series, she has the Ice Home series, which is a spin-off of that. She has the Rizdaverse series, which is also another spin-off in the same universe. She has so many books set in this universe and other books set in different universes, but her Ice Planet Barbarian series was the one that got me into alien romance. I read the first book, it was weird, and I was interested. Honestly, the first book isn't my favorite, but I read literally every other book that she wrote, and she just has this way of including all these different types of characters, all these different kinds of situations. She makes everything is so happy, everything has a happy ending. Her men are always like very protective and very cinnamon rolly, and she has a lot of fated mates series, and it's honestly the way she writes is just very worry-free. So it was a very comforting series to read, and like I said, it is what got me into alien romance, so highly recommended for people that are open-minded and don't mind reading weird shit. Anyways, those are the 4 authors that got me started in romance, 18+ romance books. I recommend that you check out all of them. I hope you like and subscribe, that really helps me out, and I will see you all next time. Bye!